All right, guys, we are going to be on page number 59 today, page 59. Before we get started with this lesson, there's a couple things we need to review. Okay, so what happens with a fraction? What happens with a fraction that has the numerator and the denominator the same number? What does that equal? It equals 1, okay? So it doesn't matter if it's 34 over 34, 5 over 5, 700 over 700, okay? Those all equal 1, right? Okay? They all equal 1. So, the other thing we need right now is we need to remember, what do we need to have in order to add fractions? A common denominator, okay? Now, the reason why we need to remember that any fraction that has a numerator and a denominator the same number, and in order to add fractions, we have to have the same denominator, because we're going to be talking about subtracting fractions with borrowing. Subtracting fractions with borrowing. Okay? So now if I have, for example, 1 minus 2/3. Okay? Now, I cannot subtract 2/3 from 1, can I? No, because it's not a fraction. The only thing I can subtract from fractions are fractions. Okay? So what I need to do is I need to borrow this 1, making that a 0, and change it into a fraction. Okay? Now what do I need to have in order to subtract fractions? Common denominator. So this fraction that I'm changing 1 into, the fraction has to equal 1, right? Because I'm borrowing 1 whole. But it also has to have a common denominator of 3. Okay? So what fraction equals 1 but has a denominator of 3? 3 over 3. All right? So now I have 3 over 3 minus 2/3. I have the same denominator. This one's bigger, right? This one's smaller. So I can subtract it like normal. So I just subtract my numerators. And 1 minus 2/3 equals 1/3. Yes?
I don't get how you got the 3 over 3.
Okay. I had to borrow 1, right? Okay. So that 1 that I'm borrowing, I need to change into a fraction. Okay? So, when we're subtracting fractions, we need to have same denominators, right? Okay? So I borrowed the 1. I need to have it be a denominator of 3 so I can subtract it, right? But when I borrow it, I have to have that, make sure that equals 1. Okay? That's like if I have a pizza. Okay? If I have a pizza, okay, and I have 8 pieces in the pizza, right? Those 8 pieces are the fraction. So if I have 8 over 8, that means I have 1 whole pizza, right? Okay. Right here, I have 1 whole that I'm borrowing, but I need to change it to a fraction. So I change it to a fraction of 3 over 3 because my denominator needs to be 3 so I can subtract it, right? So that's where I get the 3 over 3. Make sense now? Okay. Now, if I have, let's do another example, 9 minus 7/8. Okay? Can I subtract 7/8 from 9? No, I cannot. Okay? So I need to borrow. Okay, borrow, that becomes an 8, right? What fraction am I going to change that 1 whole to? 8 over 8. Because it has to equal 1, right? So my numerator and denominator have to be the same. But yet I have to have the same denominators down here. So I have it be 8 over 8, or 8/8. Now I can subtract. I have 8 minus 7 is 1. 8, bring down this number. So I get 8 and 1/8. Make sense so far? Anybody confused? Anybody bored out of their mind? Really? Really? Okay. You have a question? All right. So, let's go through and do ABC on section 2. ABC on section 2. And then after everybody does ABC, then we'll do FGH. And then after that, we'll cover the last section. Yes. Yes. Come up to me and show me what you have so far afterwards. Okay? All right, right now what you guys are going to work on is F, G, and H. F, G, and H. This is where you're going to be borrowing a little bit bigger numbers. F, G, H. All right, so now what we're going to do, okay, we have a little bit more to do. Some of you, the last section, you forgot that you were borrowing to get this fraction. When you're borrowing, you make sure you cross it off and put the next lower number, okay? So we borrow from 9, that becomes an 8. All right, you got to remember to do that. Now, let's review a little bit. What's the one thing you need to have in order to add or subtract fractions?
Common denominator.
Common denominator. Good job. Okay. So, if I have 11 and a half and I have 4 3/4, and I'm subtracting, okay, do I have common denominators? No, I don't, okay? Now, before I figure out that I need to borrow here, which I will, what do I need to do? Tony?
You need to do like the two,
I need to get my common denominator, right? Okay? So, what's my common denominator between 4 and 2? No. Least common denominator is 4. Okay? 2 goes into 4, 4 goes into 4. So, because my common denominator is 4, I don't need to touch this fraction at all. It's already set at 4, right? But I have to change this. How am I going to change this? Okay? What number did I multiply 2 by to get 4, Tony? 2. So I have to multiply this 1 by what number? I have to multiply this 1 by what number? 2. Okay? That gives me 2/4. Now, I'm just moving this over a little bit so it lines up so I can do my subtraction. But here's the problem. Can I subtract a smaller number or a bigger number from a smaller number? No, okay? I can't subtract 3 from 2, can I? Okay? So that means I'm going to have to borrow. I'm going to borrow from my 11. That becomes a 10. Now, what fraction equals 1 with a denominator of 4? Denominator of 4.
Oh, 2/4? No, 3/4?
The fraction equals 1. 4/4. Okay? So I need to add 4/4 to my 2/4. Okay? Yes?
It's going to become 6/4.
Yes, it becomes 6/4. Okay? Okay? So what I did here, go through it from the beginning. Okay? I found my common denominator, 4. I changed this fraction so that it has a denominator of 4. I changed it. Okay? Then I borrowed. Okay? I borrowed 1 from over here, and I added that 1 to my fraction of 2/4. All right? So now I have 6/4. So now, I can move this over, and I can subtract now, right?
Yeah.
Okay? So I'm going to have 6 minus 3 is 3/4. Am I done? What do I need to do? I need to subtract my whole numbers. 10 minus 4 is 6. So 6 3/4. Okay? So, again, what I do is I went through, I saw that I did not have common denominators. Right? We look for our common denominator. We have a 4 and a 4. Okay? So I have to change this fraction to 2, from 2 to 4. So I multiply 2 times 2 equals 4. I have to make an equivalent fraction, so I have to multiply 1 times 2 to get 2. And now I have 2/4 minus 3/4. I cannot subtract that. It doesn't work out right. So I have to borrow from my 11. And I have to add that 1 that I'm borrowing, but I have to change that 1 to a fraction. in order to add fractions, I have to have common denominator, so that fraction has to have a denominator of 4, but equal 1. So the only way to have that is to have 4 over 4. So I add my 4 fourths, I get 6 fourths. I subtract, I get 3 fourths. Subtract over here, I get 6. So my answer is going to be 6 3/4. Any questions? Are you sure?
Yes, sir.
You ready to do some of these on your own?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Can we get a whiteboard, please?
No.
How about if we have our own whiteboard?
No. I want you guys to do K, L, and M. K, L, M. All right, do K, L, and M. And then bring it to me when you're done. All right, guys, real quick before I give you your homework for tonight. If you look at the board, I had a process of the way I wrote out my problem. Okay? I have my original problem, 11.5 minus 4 3/4, right? Then next to it, I wrote what I multiplied by to get my common denominator, right? Then I wrote what happens when I multiply that. So I get 1/2 times 2/2 equals 2/4, right? And then I have my 3/4. I move that over, right? Then I borrowed. I wrote the fraction that I'm adding, and then I wrote what happens when I add it together. Then I move my 3/4 over again. Okay? A lot of you I've seen are getting confused because you're erasing your work. You're jumping straight from 1/2 is 6/4. You're forgetting to borrow, and you're forgetting to do steps. When you're subtracting fractions with borrowing, I want every problem to look like this. I do not want you erasing stuff because you're going to get confused. Okay? When you're finding common denominators, do not erase it to show just you have a common denominator. Okay? Write the fraction with the common denominator next to the original fraction, so you remember where you start off with and where you've gone. You're getting confused because you're not following the steps, or you're trying to follow the steps in your head. Okay? It's not going to work for a lot of you to follow the steps in your head. You got too much stuff jumbled up in your brain, and you're trying to figure it out, and you can't pull it out, okay? But if you write the steps out and follow the steps on the paper, you'll be able to see, okay, I did this step, I did this step, I did this step, I did that step. Now what I do? Oh, I'm done. I can subtract now. Okay? I do not want anybody going right from 1/2 to 4/6 and subtracting. I want to see every step written out. If you're doing it on a quiz or a test, they give you plenty of space to write it out. If you don't have space, get a piece of paper and turn the paper into me. All right? You guys aren't in trouble, but this is something that's going to help you out if you follow the steps. Okay? So follow the steps when you're on your paper and write everything out. I don't just do this stuff on the board. When I actually have to do this stuff in real life, I write it out this way. Because I still can get confused. Alright? So I want you guys to write each step out on your paper as you're doing the problem. It's going to keep you guys from making mistakes. And make sure you follow your signs. Some of you are adding rather than subtracting, okay? So make sure you write steps out, follow your signs. Your homework for tonight is going to be on page 362, lesson 33. 362, lesson 33. Test tomorrow.